The rain hammered against my workshop windows like bullets, each drop a reminder that some storms you see coming from miles away. At 2 a.m., I should have been sleeping next to my wife of 8 years. Instead, I was carving a newel post and wondering when exactly Sienna had started treating our marriage like a discount loyalty program, one she was eager to cancel. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Cal, you still up? Her voice drifted from the kitchen, sweet as antifreeze. I didn't answer immediately. The wood shavings at my feet told a story of sleepless nights, of hands that needed something to do, while my mind processed the growing pile of evidence that my wife was screwing around, literally. Yeah, I'm here, I called back, setting down my chisel. Work emergency run late again? Sienna appeared in the doorway, her designer dress wrinkled, makeup smeared just enough to suggest she'd been doing more than reviewing rental properties. She managed luxury vacation rentals here in Millhaven, Maine, a job that apparently required a lot of after-hours client meetings. You know how it is, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. Mrs. Henderson's cottage had a plumbing issue. Bex had to help me deal with it. Bex, Beckett Lyle, the local yacht broker who'd somehow become Sienna's go-to handyman for every emergency. Funny how a guy who sold boats had become such an expert in plumbing. Did you sign a non-compete with your pants? I asked, gesturing at her disheveled appearance. Her face flushed. Jesus, Cal, you're so paranoid. Maybe if you paid half as much attention to our marriage as you do to those stupid wood projects, maybe if you came home before the bars closed, I'd have something to pay attention to. She stormed off, heels clicking against the hardwood floors I'd installed myself 3 years ago, back when I still believed in things like loyalty and marriage vows. The next morning brought more rain and a revelation that would change everything. Sienna had left her phone on the kitchen counter, Face ID still active from when she'd checked it minutes before. I wasn't proud of looking, but 8 years of marriage had taught me that sometimes you need to confirm what your gut already knows. Her latest Instagram post made my blood freeze. Loyalty is for dogs, not women like me. Living my best life. No regrets. The comments were already pouring in from her followers, mostly other bored housewives and wannabe influencers, but it was her DMs that really told the story. Messages to Bex that made me want to sanitize my entire house. And worse, a group chat with her best friend Jade Penrose, plotting how to bleed Cal dry in a divorce while keeping her affair quiet. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then did something that felt both petty and perfectly justified. I commented on her post, "Perfect, stay on a leash then." Then I blocked her account and uploaded our vacation photos from last summer, the ones with Jade, back when I thought she was actually Sienna's friend instead of her accomplice. I captioned it, "Some people know what loyalty means." By the time Sienna woke up, her post had vanished, and Jade was blowing up my phone with increasingly frantic texts. They were scared. Good. Fear meant they had something to lose. Time to go full Stephen King on these people, I muttered, already formulating a plan. The drunken gull hadn't changed in 20 years. Still the same sticky floors, the same neon beer signs, and the same bartender who knew everyone's business before they did. Maggie Torres had been slinging drinks and collecting secrets since before I'd graduated high school. "You look like hell, Cal," she said, sliding a whiskey across the scarred bar top. "Heard your wife's been taking sailing lessons." "Thought I smelled something fishy," I replied, downing the drink. In small towns like Millhaven, infidelity was community property. Everyone knew, but nobody said anything until the wronged party showed up looking for confirmation. "Bex has been bragging about his new client," Maggie continued, wiping down glasses with practiced efficiency. "Says she's teaching him about property management, real hands-on education if you catch my drift." "Any idea what their next lesson plan involves?" Maggie glanced around the nearly empty bar, then leaned closer. Word is they're planning to take that pretty Mustang of yours for a romantic getaway. Something about needing reliable transportation for their new life together. My 1967 Mustang Fastback. I'd spent 3 years restoring that car, every bolt and gasket chosen with care. It was worth more than Sienna's engagement ring, and she knew it. Thanks, Maggie. Drinks are on me next time. Make sure there is a next time, honey. The storm was getting worse as I drove home, but I had work to do. My workshop wasn't just for furniture. I kept all my automotive tools there, too. It took me an hour to remove the spark plugs from the Mustang and replace them with corroded ones I'd pulled from a junkyard engine years ago. The car would start, maybe even run for a few miles, but it would die spectacularly when pushed too hard. For good measure, I left a dead mackerel in the trunk, a gift from this morning's fishing expedition that I'd been saving for the right occasion. Then I drove the car to the old warehouse district and parked it where Sienna and Bex would easily find it. The GPS tracker I'd installed under the dashboard would tell me exactly when they made their move. I posted a cryptic video on my private social media account, just a shot of the warehouse and the caption, "Some rides are one way only." 2 days later, my phone buzzed with the tracker alert. They'd taken the bait. I arrived at the town square just in time to watch the show. The Mustang had made it about 6 blocks before dying in front of the post office, with half the town watching. Sienna was standing in a puddle, one heel snapped off, screaming at Bex, who was frantically trying to restart the engine. The smell of dead fish was apparently strong enough that a small crowd had gathered at a respectful distance. Sometimes karma needs a designated driver, I muttered, watching Bex pop the hood and stare helplessly at the engine. But the real entertainment was just beginning. Jade had appeared with her phone out, filming the disaster, but not to help. She was documenting everything, probably planning to sell the footage to the highest bidder. My phone buzzed with a text from her. "Pay up or your dirty laundry goes viral. $5,000 or everyone sees what I filmed." I smiled. Jade had just made a crucial mistake. She'd revealed her hand too early. Sienna's rental apartment was in the trendy part of town, all exposed brick and overpriced coffee shops. I'd helped her find it 2 years ago when she'd claimed she needed a creative space for her work. Now I knew what kind of creativity she'd been practicing there. I didn't break in. I didn't need to. Sienna had given me the spare key months ago, back when she'd wanted me to water her plants during a business trip. The same business trip where she'd actually been in Boston with Bex, according to the credit card statements I'd finally bothered to examine. Her laptop was password protected, but Sienna had never been creative with security. Our wedding date got me right in. Her calendar was a gold mine of lies. Client meetings that corresponded with Bex's available hours. Property inspections at times when the properties were occupied. And best of all, a pattern of double booking vacation rentals, taking deposits from multiple families for the same weeks, then claiming system errors when conflicts arose. I made copies of everything, then did something that felt beautifully appropriate. I scheduled a fake appointment in her calendar, a luxury client consultation, at the marina for the following evening. The kind of high-end meeting that would bring both Sienna and Bex running. Then I made some phone calls. "Mrs. Patterson, this is Cal Braddock. I think you should know that the Henderson cottage you paid a deposit for next month. 3 other families have receipts for the same week." By the time I'd worked through Sienna's client list, I had a very interested audience lined up for tomorrow's marina meeting. The next evening was perfect, cold, drizzly, with the kind of gray light that made everything look like a crime scene. I watched from the harbor master's office as Sienna and Bex arrived, both dressed to impress their imaginary wealthy client. Instead, they found 15 very real, very angry families waiting for them. "There she is!" Mrs. Patterson's voice cut through the evening air like a foghorn. "The woman who stole our vacation money!" What followed was the kind of public reckoning that small towns do better than anywhere else. Bex tried to run, slipped on the wet dock, and nearly went into the harbor before catching himself on a piling. Sienna's designer bag wasn't so lucky. It tumbled into the water with a splash that seemed to echo across the marina. But the real show was Jade, who'd appeared with her phone to live stream what she thought would be my humiliation. Instead, she got to broadcast Sienna and Bex being confronted by their victims, and when she thought nobody was looking, she helped herself to the cash from Sienna's soaked purse, not knowing that my neighbor Gulliver was recording everything with his drone. "You'll regret this!" Sienna screamed at me as the crowd dispersed. "I already do," I replied. "I regret not doing it sooner." The confrontation I'd been expecting came 3 days later. Bex showed up at my workshop after dark, probably thinking he'd catch me off guard. He was bigger than me, younger, and used to getting his way through intimidation. "You think you're real smart, don't you?" he said, pushing through the door without being invited. "Ruining people's lives with your little games." "Just evening the score," I replied, not looking up from the table I was sanding. "Though I notice you're not denying any of it." Sienna deserves better than some washed-up carpenter who spends more time with wood than his wife. "Funny thing about wood," I said, finally turning to face him. "It's honest. You can see the flaws right on the surface. People like you and Sienna, the rot's all hidden inside." He took a step toward me, hands clenched into fists. "Maybe it's time someone taught you some respect." That's when I triggered the workshop's security system, motion lights, alarm, and most importantly, the video camera that started streaming directly to Maggie's phone. Within minutes, half the town would be watching Bex threaten me in my own workspace. "Here's the thing about respect," I said, standing up to my full height. Bex was younger, but I was broader, with the kind of strength that comes from 30 years of working with your hands. "You earn it by keeping your word. You lose it by screwing other men's wives." I stepped closer, close enough that he had to look up to meet my eyes. "If you ever touch my tools or my life again, you'll wish it was just your reputation I ruined." Then I slapped his phone out of his hand. It hit the concrete floor and shattered, the screen going dark. Bex stared at the pieces for a moment, then looked back at me. "This isn't over," he said, but his voice had lost its edge. "Yeah, it is," I replied. "You just don't know it yet." He left without another word, and I went back to sanding my table. By morning, the video of his threats was all over social media, and the court of public opinion had rendered its verdict. But Sienna and Bex weren't done. Desperate people do desperate things, and they'd decided their only option was to destroy me completely. The setup was elegant in its simplicity. Jade texted me, claiming she wanted to make amends and had information about Sienna's plans to clean out our joint accounts. "We should meet at the town square," she said. "Neutral ground." What I found instead was Sienna and Bex waiting by the gazebo, with Jade positioned nearby, camera ready. The plan was obvious. Provoke me into attacking Bex while Jade filmed it, then use the footage to paint me as the aggressor in divorce court. "Cal!" Sienna called out as I approached. "We need to talk about this like adults." "Adults don't usually require an audience," I replied, nodding toward Jade's not-so-hidden phone. "Look, man," Bex said, stepping forward with his hands raised in a gesture of false peace. "Maybe we got off on the wrong foot. Sienna and I were in love, real love, not like whatever you two had." "What we had was a marriage," I said, "but I guess that's a concept you wouldn't understand. At least I know how to satisfy a woman." He shot back, the mask slipping. "When's the last time you made Sienna feel like a real woman?" He was trying to bait me, make me throw the first punch while Jade's camera rolled, but I'd been expecting this. "Funny you should mention satisfaction," I said, pulling out my phone. "Because I've got some screenshots here that might interest everyone." The color drained from Sienna's face. "You wouldn't dare. Your text messages planning this whole setup? The ones where you and Bex discuss framing me for assault?" I held up the phone so everyone could see. "Already posted them. Amazing what people will put in writing when they think they're smarter than everyone else." The small crowd that had gathered began murmuring, pulling out their own phones to check social media. Jade's camera was still rolling, but now she was capturing her own friend's downfall instead of mine. "And Jade," I continued, turning to face her directly, "that video of you stealing money from Sienna's purse at the marina? Gulliver's drone got some beautiful footage, really artistic angles." Jade's phone clattered to the ground. "You're lying." "Check your Instagram mentions," I suggested. "Should be trending by now." What happened next was the kind of mob justice that social media had perfected. The crowd didn't need to throw punches. They had something much more devastating. Phones came out, cameras started rolling, and suddenly Sienna and Bex found themselves at the center of a very different kind of viral moment. "Loyalty is for dogs, right?" someone called out, referencing Sienna's deleted post that I'd screenshotted and shared. "Woof, woof," came the reply from the crowd. They tried to leave with dignity, but dignity was in short supply. Someone threw a drink, then another. By the time they reached Bex's car, they were soaked, humiliated, and utterly defeated. But I wasn't quite finished. Bex's yacht was his pride and joy, a 30-foot cabin cruiser that he'd used to impress clients and seduce other men's wives. It was moored at the marina, gleaming white fiberglass that reflected the morning sun like a beacon of his success. I'd brought my keys, the sharp, jagged kind that left deep scratches in paint. Working carefully, I carved "Loyalty Discount" along the port side in letters 2 feet tall. Then I tied a dog leash to the helm and took a photo. The image was online within minutes, along with the caption, "Some people need a reminder about what loyalty means." By noon, it had been shared 300 times. By evening, Bex had quietly moved his boat to a marina 2 towns over, but the internet is forever. Sienna tried calling me that night, probably to negotiate some kind of truce. I let it go to voicemail, then deleted the message without listening. We had nothing left to say to each other. 3 days later, I was at the Drunken Gull, celebrating my victory with a whiskey and the satisfaction of a job well done. Maggie poured my drink with a smile. "Heard they left town," she said. "Bex lost his broker's license after all those complaints came out. Sienna's facing fraud charges for the rental scam." "What about Jade?" "Moved back in with her mother. Turns out being an accessory to fraud doesn't pay as well as she thought." I raised my glass in a toast. "Here's to loyalty. May it bite you when you least expect it." Through the window, I could see the harbor where Bex's boat used to be moored. The empty slip looked peaceful in the evening light, like a wound that had finally healed. The rain had stopped, and for the first time in months, the sky was clear. I finished my drink, left a generous tip for Maggie, and walked home to my workshop. There was a rocking chair I'd been meaning to finish, and for the first time in a long while, I had all the time in the world. Some storms you weather, others you learn to dance in. The end. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching,